Hi everyone, Caoimhin here from CIT's Blackrock Castle Observatory. We're here nice and early, just 10:30 on Friday, but we will be moving later into the evening and even into the countryside to see some artificial satellites that can be visible in our sky. There's a very wide range of different satellites that can be seen streaking across the sky, so if you'd like to learn more about those, make sure to stick around until the end of the video, and if you'd like to stay up to date on all of our videos, make sure to hit that red subscribe button and click that little blue bell icon next to it to make sure you get all of the most up-to-date notifications. We're starting nice and early on Friday. We've already covered in one of our Twitter videos the nice close conjunction of Mercury and Venus, and we can see that over here. There's Mercury and Venus right next to each other, already quite low in the sky by 10:30, but the sky is still reasonably bright. We can't see too much. We are looking at the sky here in the city, so as well as the orange-yellow glow of sunset, we've got a fair amount of light pollution. But as we allow the night to progress, and I am after speeding up time here, so things will happen a little bit faster. As the sky darkens, we should start to see some bright dots moving across the sky. Oh, there goes one. Let's bring back the time a little bit. And this is a satellite, and it is reflecting light from the sun off of its solar panels. This is the Terra satellite. So this is passing nice and high, pretty much above the southeast at around 10 to 11. Terra is a scientific research satellite. It's been up for about 20 years now and still tipping away just fine, taking images of the Earth from space. And of course, many satellites, they're not just up there to study space, but to give us a better view of what's happening here down on Earth. Some satellites have been in the same orbits, changing very, very little for many years now, and in some cases, decades. Those satellites are some of the easier ones to predict. It's easier to tell where they'll be at what time. Other satellites, however, often change their position. So it looks like we have another. It's just passing the North Star now, or passing through the plough. There we go. There is the Cosmos satellite, another satellite streaking above us. So it looks like this one was launched back in 1988, according to its designator number up here. So some of these satellites have been in space for quite a while. These Cosmos satellites often pass into our shadow and disappear or fade away before they actually set. And it looks like, yep, there we go. It just became pretty much invisible to my eyes. And it's still technically visible, but it's after getting a little bit fainter, so it'll be very hard to watch it cross the entire sky here in the city. We'll keep moving forward because we will have another particularly nice bright object coming up at about 20 to 12. But the next object that we're going to see, it is very bright and very obvious to see in the sky, but much harder to predict compared to many other satellites. Most satellites are put into an orbit, and that's the orbit that they stay in. We figure out what they need to see and what we want them to look at, and we put them in the correct orbit. But this object, very, very bright, very hard to miss. Well, this is the International Space Station, and we have put a video on Twitter earlier this week about the International Space Station as well. So the ISS, it does change its position, its direction, its motion around us under its own power for various reasons. The ISS slowly decelerates and needs to boost itself back up to stay in orbit. So we can see it rising there at just 20 to 12. But the ISS isn't going to stay visible the entire way across the sky. You'll see it rise, but you won't really be able to see it set, and we'll see just as it comes down on the other side of the sky, it will vanish before it even hits the horizon. So there's the ISS above the eastern horizon. It hasn't actually set yet, but it has moved into our shadow. And we see the ISS, along with most other satellites, because of light they're reflecting off of their solar panels and other reflective parts of the satellite body. So when the ISS is hitting or being hit by light from the sun, we can see that reflecting from its solar panels, but as soon as it passes into our shadow, it disappears. And sometimes the ISS will cross the entire sky in our shadow. This often happens when it's above the horizon in the middle of the night. Usually, if you want to see the ISS, it's better to go out near sunset, near sunrise, when the sun is able to reflect off those solar panels. This is all visible from here in the city, and you might notice here in the city, looking straight up into the sky, getting a nice wide view, we don't see too many satellites. We'll see a few little bright dots zipping across the sky. If I make the time move fast a little bit faster, we'll see a couple of bright dots zipping around. But these objects are fighting with the glow of light pollution the same as the stars. The less light pollution you have, the more of the bright lights you can see in the sky. And that covers stars, planets, and satellites. So if we take away our light pollution, move out into the depths of the countryside. So here we are in an incredibly dark sky. If we allow time to move along, we'll see a lot more of those satellites moving around. We can see a few there and there. It's hard to spot them unless the time is moving, but satellites also can move across our sky quite quickly. So there's one moving down towards the west. Let's grab that. That's Lacrosse. So the Lacrosse satellite, an interesting name. Some satellites have some very inventive names. Here's another one just crossing above the horizon. This is the NOS, one of the NOS satellites. These are naval oceanic surveillance satellites. So they're used by the Navy to take a look at what's going on the ocean. And there are many of them zipping across the sky. There's Lacrosse again. We were moving time backwards, so it'll come back up into the sky. There's loads of them to see. There is many satellites. There's a radar satellite. There is thousands of them out there. But which ones you can see, it will depend on the time of night that you're observing and what kind of sky you have. If you have a darker sky, you will certainly see a lot more. Now, I'm looking for one in particular here, which should be coming up on Friday, and it is a Titan. But it's not really a satellite at all. Some of the objects that we can see streaking across our night sky are better classified. There we go, Titan 4B RB rocket body. This is part of a rocket that was launched back in 2000. So this is technically space junk. It's not really fulfilling a purpose, but it is something that we've put into space orbiting around us. Now the Titan rocket, this one launched back in 2000, it launched quite a few actual satellites. It did serve a purpose. The rocket wasn't launched for no reason. But when the rocket broke apart, when its boosters fell away, one part of the rocket was left in orbit around the Earth. So this is technically space junk. And if you're in a very dark sky, we're seeing it here just after 11 o'clock over in the northwest. So some of the things that we see in the sky, they're junk. They're not purposeful satellites that are giving us anything useful. Some of them are, and indeed most of them are. A lot of space junk isn't going to be very easy to see, and we are hoping to remove space junk in the future, either by allowing it or helping it to decelerate and burn up in our atmosphere. Now that we're out in a deep part of the countryside, the ISS looks even more fantastic. It seems to be brighter than any of the stars we're seeing here, and this is pretty much real time. We're ticking away at 1 second every second, and we can see the ISS is just drifting across the sky here. But this is really quite fast. So if we bring it back to when it's just rising, it's coming up into the sky at just about 22, and it's falling into our shadow on the other side of the sky just as we approach 23:48. So it's really only in the sky for about 7 minutes, which means it's, it's there, it's passing across the sky, it's very bright. But with the ISS and with most other satellites, if you are looking for one in particular, it's very important to be prepared, to know roughly what you're looking for. If you're looking for a particular satellite, if you just want to see a satellite, well, even in this city, it's as easy as going out, usually around sunset or sunrise, when the satellites are more likely to reflect light off their solar panels, and just waiting, just taking a look up into the sky. Even once the ISS leaves the sky here in the city, with all of the light pollution we have, we will still see little bright streaks zipping around. There's one. Oh, that's a star. Some of the satellites are pretty faint. There's Integral, the Gamma Ray Astrophysics Laboratory. So there's a nice scientific satellite. We'll see a lot of scientific satellites. There's a lot of communication satellites. Some satellites appear to zip across the sky, whereas others seem to be moving much more slowly. And this is partly down to how high in the sky they are orbiting. Objects that are orbiting a lot further from the Earth, they'll seem to move slower around us, and some won't appear to move at all. Some satellites are in geosynchronous orbit, so they appear to stay in the same part of the sky all of the time. There's a nice bright one. There's the ISS again. So we've got the ISS again at around 1 o'clock in the morning, but I'm sure for a lot of us it'll be easier to see it, and it is in fact visible for longer if you're taking a look at it a little bit closer to sunset. And we can see here it's more visible on the opposite side of the sky. It's disappearing as it comes up towards the south, rather than disappearing as it comes down into the east. And this is all down to the position of the Earth and the Sun and any shadows the ISS might move into. So I do hope that you get a chance to see at least some satellites, even if it's not the International Space Station. I do hope you get to see a few of these bright objects zipping across our sky over the next few evenings.